JJJinks!
Truck stop!
In this video, I would like to show you my vintage pocket knife collection. Some of these date back all the way to the early 1900s and others up into the 80s. I'm really not sure what the line is between vintage, antique, or neither. I'll just start off by showing off this one. This one's a really nice example of an Art Deco style gentleman's pocket knife. It's pretty common on these to see a space for an anagram, this little rectangular spot here. But what makes me really attracted to these knives is the intricate patterning. You can see there's that neat scroll work around the perimeter of the rectangular scale. And then you got some kind of a funky plaid-ish looking pattern etched into it as well. And on the other side, you have these very handsome pinstripe patterns. These were knives that were intended to carry in your watch pocket, and gentlemen did gentlemanly things with them, I suppose. They usually hinge in the corners, and here we have a neat little clip point blade. It's very well used. Most of these also come with scissors, which are pretty difficult to get out for the reasons that, oh my god, I'm ripping my thumbnail apart. Reasons that I will show you in a moment. This might be the only one I take out. Oh god. Well, it doesn't help that it's a little bit... It's just gunked up and stiff, but if you look just above the screw, you'll see these kind of channels cut through the steel. That's your thumb nick. That's what you're supposed to gain purchase on in order to pull this thing out of the knife. And these are all pretty much the same. You got a piece of sprung steel and that screw at the pivot there. Very common on these kinds of knives, as I said. Very difficult to get out. And we got a bail. In a lot of my previous videos over the years, I've mistakenly called this a pail, but it's not. I was corrected. It is a bail. My apologies to anybody who was offended by my misuse of grammar. I can't quite make out the maker's mark, but it's something United, made in USA. Let's move on to the next one. This one's kind of similar, and it actually came in the box. This one, it was made in Italy and held in by a rubber band across this piece of cardboard. Just kind of neat that it came with the box. And we have a similar motif. This one's in astoundingly good condition considering how old it is. A couple scratches here and there, but the pinstriping pattern is very much intact. And on the other side, we have the spot for the anagram, with a slightly different pattern in the pinstriping. In addition to a pen blade, this one also came with a file, which, by the looks of it, was very well used. And then the scissors, which are in better condition than they were in that one, but I'm just going to leave them in there for reasons I hope you understand. The blade is also in really good shape. It's like it was hardly used. I'm pretty impressed with that. And the maker's mark is Supco, Italy, stainless. Now another style of gentleman's knives that you might find would be something like this. This one's kind of got a double coffin shape to it. Very common to find gold-plated or gold-colored pocket knives that are around this size, and here we have the bail on one end and a couple of blades in the middle, and that's pretty much it. I mean, this is an era where people just carried these things to cut things like fruit and, oh god, not much else. Okay, well, I got this one out. A little bit gnarly, scratched up and used. You can see in the center there's this oval for the anagram, a little bit of pinstriping with what looks like maybe bunches of grapes or something like that in that pinstriping. It's tiny, it's hard to tell. And some beautiful scroll work done as well. I can't really make out the maker's mark, but I'm pretty sure it says stainless on the second line. The top line is VOO. Yeah, no idea. But I dig the Art Deco look. This next one screams Art Deco. No idea when this knife was made, but it is very interesting because it's green. And there's your anagram space. And we have this really cool patterning going on. It's almost like Greek or something that you would see like at the Hearst Castle. I don't know. It's sort of from that time period. Like the Great Gatsby would carry this, right? This is one of those blades where the blade is stored in the handle and it swings out like this. And what we have is a very well-loved blade. Lots of oxidation and patina. Made in... it's going to be pretty difficult to tell. But I love the brass and green look of this one. And I try not to open it too much because it kind of feels like these pins may give at any moment. And I want to keep it in this condition. Beautiful. This next one, I know a little bit more information about. This was made in Russia. And this style of knife was very popular in the 70s and 80s as kind of a thing that tourists would buy. You know, make a trip to Moscow, pick up one of these on your way out. And it is in incredibly good condition. We have this very beautiful inlay. It's sort of like a flower or an orchid or something like that. This blue and the cyan, that just looks absolutely gorgeous. I've seen these on eBay where they're all banged up and rusted. Go for a lot more than I got this one for. I think I just got lucky. Really hard to see, but there are some Russian letters up at the top there above those pins. I don't read Russian, so couldn't tell you what it says. Probably welcome to Moscow or something like that. So let's check out the blades on this thing. They're pretty interesting. Oh god, my nails are not going to recover from this. Here you have your usual little pen blade. And over here you have something that you do see on a lot of vintage knives. It's kind of this spear point tool. I have no idea what it's actually used for. And I didn't look it up either. Knitting, perhaps? Or maybe just a general awl? I don't know. And it's also got a file with some black stains. Alright, I'm going to attempt to get the scissors out. Oh, God. Why? Okay, that one wasn't as bad. There you can see that little slit cut above the pivot screw. That was what I caught to open the thing. I don't know why, everybody knows what these look like. Now the last tool on here is the most interesting one in my opinion. We got a little tiny spoon. Why a spoon? Because it's dull, you twit. No, because cocaine and snuff were popular back then. You actually see these on a lot of older knives from the early 1900s because cocaine wasn't outlawed until much later and opiates were a thing. And hey, why not put one of these onto your multi-tool? I think it's pretty neat. It's kind of a sign of a bygone era. This is also kind of a popular motif in the Russian sort of souvenir pocket knives. You can get these with different inlays, different patterns. But I didn't want to get a whole bunch of them. And when I saw the condition of this one, I just had to place a bid. It was probably the most amount of money I've spent on my vintage collection so far. I got it for 20 bucks. All of these were 12 and under. This next one, it's got a little bit of personality to it. First of all, the blade is a bit short and stubby. It's been reworked. It's been reshaped. You can tell because the clip point thing goes right through the thumb nick, and when it's closed, the tip kind of pokes out a little bit. This blade used to be longer down the length of the handle. So this was obviously well used, so they probably broke the tip off one or more times and then reshaped it. And with the regrind, they actually did a really good job. If you look way out at the tip there, that's very symmetrical. That's impressive work. I've seen stuff come out of Benchmade factories that weren't as good as that. So this blade sold for a very little amount of money, probably because of the blade. The maker's mark is LF and C USA, which, from what I understand, was basically a conglomerate of cutleries that sort of merged and became one massive thing, and for a while they just had a really long name and made pocket knives with that stamp. That's the brief history from what I've read. But no, the reason why I wanted this knife was because of the scale material. Have a look at this. Isn't that just gorgeous? The amber and brown hues with the multi-layering effect. This, believe it or not, is made out of celluloid, which is a mixture of camphor and nitrocellulose that, well, they used to make all kinds of products. It's not a plastic, but it is a thermosetting material, so you can basically mold it into whatever you want. And you can make these multi-layer materials and inject colors, and you can make things that look like this. It's not a very popular material anymore these days because celluloid has a tendency to flake and crack. It's arguably a very poor material for a knife handle. But for something like this, a gentleman's knife, where, well, obviously they got a lot of use out of it, but for something that you just want it to look nice and you don't really care about the rest of it, I would like to see this material come back into the knife world. Although we could achieve this effect, this look, using more modern plastics, but there's something about the classics that really draws my eye. And this is a very well-made knife. Have a look at the spring back here. There's just no gaps. It's a little oxidized. It could use a little polishing. And this is just eye candy to me. So yeah, like $9 is what I got this for. Frickin' bargain. Great example of the use of celluloid for knife handle materials. I got one more example to show you. It's another knife that I got because of the material that it was made out of. And I think this knife, even though it's the smallest in my collection, it's got the most personality. What you're looking at is what I would call a fake tortoiseshell look. This is made from Bakelite. Bakelite was one of the first plastics ever invented in the early 1900s. The chemical name for it is polyoxybenzyl methyl N-glycoanhydride. A real mouthful, but basically it's a thermosetting phenol formaldehyde resin. You mix the ingredients together, heat it up a little bit, and it hardens. Bakelite, as an early plastic, was used for a lot of early kitchenware, jewelry, toys, things like that. But as an early plastic, it had its problems. It was a little bit on the brittle side. It has a relatively low melting point, so it's not very heat resistant. Plastics came a long way since then. But let's talk about the rest of the knife. First of all, we have this really unique looking shield in the middle there. I'm not really sure what I would call that. It's not one I've seen before. It's an incredibly thin knife. This thing is really stacked for the size. And instead of, there's only one thing with a thumb nick, which automatically makes it excellent in my opinion. And that is the blade, which has a thumb nick on either side. So I'm just going to pull it out right here. A couple of things to say about the blade. First of all, This comes to us from Czechoslovakia. So that's interesting. Second of all, the blade isn't even ground. It's just stamped out and done. I don't know if it's one of those things where like you're supposed to sharpen it yourself, or more likely this is just kind of a novelty thing that it was advertised as a lady's knife. Now the rest of the blades and tools and things, I'm sure you've noticed there are these little tabs sticking out and they simply pivot. This one wants to come out first. They simply pivot like so. So this one, oh, we're down here. I think that's supposed to be a toothpick. I don't know. I didn't get the manual with this thing. And here we have another one of those spear point file doohickeys. And the final tools, there are two more. Trying to guess which side they come out of. There we go. A little hook. And another one of those cocaine/snuff spoons right here. So very, very interesting piece. And like I said, for its size, it's surprisingly packed with a lot of tools. It feels very flimsy. There is a spacer in the middle that separates some of the tools out, and I kind of feel like with these riveted pivots that this thing would fall apart pretty quickly if you ever actually used it regularly. This was most likely a gift or something that somebody got and threw in a drawer and forgot about. And now, it's mine. One other special mention. I spotted this knife while I was searching for vintage and antique pocket knives, and I felt like I just had to pick it up. This knife was made by Frost Cutlery in the 70s and 80s, back when their knives were actually kind of decent. What we have is basically an eagle eye, a Beetlejuice knife that has a mirror polish on the blade, very nice nickel silver bolsters, and dyed bone for the scales. I didn't think Frost Cutlery was capable of something this nice. I mean, the gaps are just non-existent down the spine of this thing. I'm most impressed with the polished blade. So the story behind this piece is that apparently, you know, it's the story told on eBay, so take that with a grain of salt. Somebody's father had passed away, and they found a case of these in the attic. There were like a dozen of them. So they sold them for like $15 a piece, I think. And I got the very last one of the bunch. So now I'm actually kind of interested in looking back at the older knives that Frost Cutlery came out with decades ago, because maybe some of them are actually pretty good. Now I've read that Frost Cutlery sources their manufacturing in a lot of different places, and some of their more well-made knives are made in Japan. This piece is actually made in Germany. German stainless. Actually, I lied. I thought it was German because it says German stainless, and then I just noticed up here it says Pakistan. Ha! Oh, Frost Cutlery. Never change. Anyway, that is my collection of vintage knives. They're very fun to collect, and like I said, if you look around on eBay and just kind of, you know, keep an eye on these, you could find them for pretty cheap. I didn't pay more than 20 bucks for any of these. And one piece of advice, if you make an account with eBay, you can watch auctions. You know, basically put them on a watch list. And if an auction closes without anybody bidding on the item, the seller might actually make a reduced offer to all the people who have it on their watch list. That's how I actually got a couple of these. Nobody bid on them. And then it was like, okay, will you take it for $7? And so I said, yeah, sure. Good deal. Anyway, thanks for watching, and good luck with your collection.